Today I'm going to show you how to make the Survivalist Rifle from Fallout New Vegas's DLC Honest Hearts. Here are the tools and materials you're going to need for this build. First I took a toy M16 I had and cut off everything and kept the part where the clip goes in and where all the other pieces are going to be attached. To make this easier on yourself, take the gun apart by unscrewing the two sides of the gun. This way it'll be easier to cut using your saw or box cutter or whatever you plan on using. I recommend using a saw. You don't have to do this, I did it and I found it to be easier. Attach the two sides back together unless you want to make a working trigger mechanism, in which case I suggest you figure out how to do that first. I didn't take time to do that. I just went right ahead and put it all together. I don't know why I didn't. I should have, but I didn't. After that, I made the pistol grip for the gun, and then made the trigger guard? Sure, let's go with that word. Out of foam core. Afterwards, I made the butt of the rifle out of EVA foam. You might want to make it smaller than this. Later on, I do, because it just looks kind of silly. Next, I made the front sights for the Survivalist Rifle out of craft foam, EVA foam, and foam core. This has got to be the simplest part to the gun until you get to the front sight, which is even more simple. Really, this whole gun is pretty simple. You're just going off of an M16 used in Vietnam. Also, you need to remember a few detail bits that make the Survivalist Rifle look unique. Speaking of detail bits, make this little circle thingy and then make another circle thingy to go inside the gun. And hot glue it like there's no tomorrow. This is going to act as a support for the copper pipe that's going to be going through, that's going to act as the barrel of the gun. Also make those triangle bits you see on the copper pipe. This is going to act as support for the triangle grip alongside spacers. Try to make them pretty small. In this video I made them a little too big and it made the triangle grip of the gun really bulge out, so try to keep small in mind. Stick it in there and give it lots of hot glue so it's got lots of support. Next, cut out a sheet of EVA foam to make the triangle grip. I suggest using a heat gun to make it bow because it'll work a lot better. I didn't have one. I used an old hair dryer I had. It'll work just as well, maybe not as well, but really you should use a heat gun. Use foam core for the bottom of the grip. Use foam core to make the front sight and use craft foam to make the... I don't know what to call them, just make them. Maybe Gek? Yeah, sure, let's go with that. Next, I dremeled the pistol grip to look more accurate and feel more accurate to the one in the game. Remember to also dremel out the edges to the butt of the rifle. This will make it look more realistic and not just blocky. Oh yeah, two things. Before you hot glue the stock in place, carve out the words Arit and stop in the sides of the butt of the rifle. Afterwards, dremel a good chunk off, just really round it in place so you can get a good chunk of the butt of the rifle to fit inside the main part of the gun. This will act as a lot of support. Also, make sure to use a lot of hot glue. Next, I made the bands that are on the rifle out of craft foam and EVA foam. You can use metal bands, but I didn't have the money or the time to go out looking for them, so I did it this way. Also, something I want to say is don't be afraid to backtrack with this rifle. Remember, this is a gun that's been surviving in the apocalypse, so don't worry if it looks a little beaten up, it just adds more life to this gun. Also, use your Dremel tool to make those imprints that I made at the back of the gun that you saw just a few seconds ago. Also, just want to say this now, don't use the box cutter to carve out the notches in the clip. Use your Dremel tool. The box cutter worked well for carving out the words for the back of the gun. Does not work well for the clip. Use the Dremel tool. I just about said box cutter. That would have been mixed messages. Use the Dremel tool to make the notches in the clip, not the box cutter. Next, cover anything and everything that's EVA foam, including the foam core, with watered down white glue. This makes it so when you go to paint it, it doesn't turn out all crackly and crappy, and it just makes it look so much better. Also, before you do that, you should do a light dremeling to the stock, which is the proper term. Man, there are going to be a lot of gun enthusiasts that are going to have my neck for getting that wrong so many times. Anyway, you should do this so that way when you go to paint it and give it a light brushing of paint, it'll just look wooden. You'll see what I mean in a few seconds. After you're done with the 5 layers of white glue, give it a base coat of black spray paint. Try to avoid any of the places that are going to be painted with acrylic paint, but I didn't, and everything seems to be working fine, so don't worry too much about it. Afterwards, anywhere that's going to be showing metal, give it a light brushing of silver spray paint. Don't go too heavy, but don't go too light. Something you should do to really sell that it's metal is go along any edges with some silver paint to make it look more metal. And do this with your finger, not a paintbrush. Oh yeah, something I want to mention. If the clip is already black, don't bother painting it. Just make the grooves and don't paint it. Don't cover it in EVA foam. Just leave it the way it is. If it's white, well, you've just wasted EVA foam. You can go ahead and paint it, but I find it's just better if you don't, because that way you can make the clip big enough to just be jammed right in, and honestly, who's going to pay that much attention to what the clip looks like inside the gun? I didn't learn that in this project. I learned that in a much later project that I'm sure I'm not going to get uploaded for another 6 months. I'll try not to let that happen again, though. Moral of the story, I need to learn to upload more often, and don't go crazy with the clip unless you plan to go overboard with it. Like, say you want to paint some sort of design on it. For this case, we're not doing that, so honestly, don't worry about painting the clip. Next, I used acrylic paint to make the butt and stock of the rifle look more wooden. I also used the pigments to the yellow acrylic paint I had and lightly dusted it on to really give it that worn out wood kind of look. It's hard for me to explain what it is exactly I did, but the best way I can sum it up as is I took very little of the yellow acrylic paint and just brushed it onto the rifle, giving it a very wooden-like texture anywhere that there's wood on the rifle. Also, something I want to mention is, remember that the stock of the rifle, the butt and the pistol grip are different colors of brown, so try to keep that in mind when you go to paint this. And that's how you make the Survivalist Rifle from Fallout New Vegas' DLC, Honest Hearts. Hey, I hope this video helped you out a lot. Holy crap, I finally got this video out. If this video helped you out a lot, then please like and subscribe, and comment if you have any questions on the build. So I want to give a safety talk with this. People will assume this is a real firearm, so you have to be careful. Take some very necessary precautions. Put up a sign that says you're filming, or do something that says, you know, you're just in cosplay. Just try to keep yourself safe. People will assume this is a real firearm. I can't express that enough, so please be careful with this prop. Anyway, I hope you have fun with this prop. See you in the next video.